Greetings traders, this is Houston Strong from thetradingedge.org, and here is your weekly market outlook for June the 29th to July the 3rd, 2020. And so Q2 is in the books, and while we didn't get the fireworks and the flourish to close out the quarter, by all accounts and measures, Q2 was a historical one. Of course, we had that huge sell-off in Q1, and Q2 brought many of the indices close to all-time highs. The Qs obviously did make all-time highs. The other indices came close. And now we enter into Q3 with some interesting chart patterns setting up that could eventually lead to quite some volatility. We'll get to that in a few moments, but in this week's video, what we'll do is we're going to take a step back, as we usually do at the beginning of each quarter. We'll take a look at some of the longer time frame charts. We'll go over of course, the broader indices, but I'll also spend a bit of time on going over the individual sectors. This is what I tend to do every quarter on these videos. And we'll also go through the Fang names, just to go over what a lot of people are looking at. Now, in terms of the econ calendar, this is going to be a shortened trading week because stateside is, of course, July the 4th. So July the 3rd is not a trading day this year, and it's kind of a weird one. This year doesn't feel like other years just because I'm sure most people are not going on their typical summer holidays, so this year seems a little bit different, but as always, you can expect to have usually a slower trading week, especially in the back half. We'll probably have a busy front half of the week as people square out their positions and adjust to new things as the new quarter opens up. But usually by the end, by the latter half of the week, things tend to slow down as people get into vacation mode. Although who knows, this year, maybe things are different. So again, just a little bit different this year than usual. But in terms of the econ counter, we have on Tuesday, of course, you got the consumer confidence number 10 o'clock. Watch for that. Wednesday, we do have the FOMC minutes. Not quite sure what that's going to reveal, so I don't think it's going to be a lot of volatility in that one. But I think the most news is going to be on Thursday. This is the final trading day of the week. We have the employment number again each Thursday at 8:30. That's and we got the jobless claims number. So that's going to be enough to probably create the most volatile price action for the week. And of course, then we have the third off. So that squares out things for the econ calendar. And in terms of the earnings calendar, pretty slow week as well. But we do kick things off on Monday. This Monday, we do have Micron reporting. So Micron's been giving up some of its gains as of late, and so that'll be interesting one to watch. It's, to see how that one trades after earnings. And FedEx on Tuesday, want to see how that thing trades after earnings. And we got Macy's reporting on Wednesday. Does that give a good does that give any kind of clues in terms of how the retail sector is doing? So watch for Macy's on Wednesday. That being said, let's launch into the charts now and go through our review. So this week, as always, I'll go through a couple of the broader indices at a more detailed level. Then we'll fast forward things a bit, and then we'll get to the quarterly charts, where we'll then examine the indices as well as those Fang names I mentioned earlier. So let's start from the highest level here. I'll talk about the VIX. And after all the volatility in Q2, the VIX ends up with the following pattern. This is what I was saying earlier, alluding to why we're setting it for potentially volatile Q3. Who knows, could even be Q4 before things break out. But here, we end up with a outside-inside on the VIX. Okay, so if you look back on previous outside-inside patterns here, this takes us back to 2015. So July 2015. Okay, there's your Q3. It goes outside, inside, and outside bar down. That's a bit of a scary bar there because it pops up first, then drops down. Outside, inside, down, outside, inside, and down. So historically, the VIX has done a really good job at going outside, inside, and down, because that's what the VIX tends to do. It tends to decay. So unless there's some sort of big scare. So again, price, the history is not predictive by any means, because things can change. Things always change. So what we simply can do is infer from the past what has happened in the past and what could happen in the future. But by no means are we using the past to try to predict the future. So in this case here, we're simply waiting for price to confirm which way it breaks out of this outside inside. So that's the the one the one level that I'll be really watching carefully on the VIX, as well as across all the indices, this outside inside pattern. Because once you break below this low here of 28.83, you're going to be full-time bearish on the VIX. That means you want to be getting back into equities heavy. So outside inside, and see how that one resolves on the VIX. For now, it was a pretty interesting month, right? Because we had the outside bar on the monthly chart. So it went inside and down. It looked like things were going to be a smooth kind of melt for the VIX to the downside, but we did have that big pop that did break above May's highs. But since then, it stayed inside the range now. We have an outside, inside, and outside bar. Sorry, inside, down, outside bar. So what we really want to be watching for this coming month as we enter the new quarter, the new month, new week, is how do you break the range of June, of this past June's bar, right? Because that's going to tell you, is it going to be Momo up, Momo down, or Momo inside? Or is it some variation of that? Meaning, does it break outside of one of the ranges, and does it come back into the range again? If that's the case, then it's it's kind of consolidation. So in the clearest scenarios, you get a clear break and it goes. Otherwise, if you break and come back in, it's just like having an inside bar here where you're still trading inside the range. So that's your VIX chart on the monthly chart. On the week here now, we have this. So here, this past week, we're watching to see how this inside bar is going to break, right? It was going to break one way or the other and went inside bar and down, and it popped back into the range. So most of the week there, it was very, very tight. This is what I said before. When you're waiting for things to break outside of ranges, does it stay outside the range? If it doesn't, then it's basically akin to an inside bar. That means you're range trading and you're still inside the prior week's range. So that being said, you did take out one side of the range already. However, this coming week, with the new quarter, the new month, the new week showing up, if somehow the buyers step up and take out that pivot high, this past week's high, then we have the possibility of things going back up again to go after that pivot. That'd be an inside bar reversal to the long side with full time frame alignment, because all these lines here, that blue line, that orange line, they will all change in terms of where their location is because of the coming week. And so this first trading week of the quarter, of the month, really sets the tone. So if we, as I've talked about in previous videos, you really want to be seeing carefully how we trade in relation to those quarterly, monthly, and weekly opens. So for me, it's going to be a very, very important week just to see in which, on which side of price do we trade. So this coming week, you have this price pattern already setting up. If you break above there, you're going to go for that after that pivot there, and it's going to be full time frame alignment to the upside, right? That means the buyers of the VIX are in full control, because all the bars on all the time frames will look green, quarterly, monthly, and weekly. So long as we stay green and it goes up, that's full time frame alignment, and you can expect there to be a scare for the indices. So on the other hand, if things break down, you take out that low, it's continuation lower, right? So that means this inside week break to the downside, it's a continuation of this breakdown, and we do have, well, I think this gap did get filled, so I want to delete that in a few moments. Then it's continuation of the downside, and we're going to possibly test this low down here. So just as I want to draw in that quarterly chart for a second. I want to just make note of that really quickly. So the inside quarter, I'm going to draw that in red here. It's there, and it's going to be in red. So when we refer back to our weekly chart, you'll see here now that it has to break down all the way down to here, right there. Okay, so it has to break down all the way to here, 28.83, to trigger the outside inside down on the quarter. So if it can come back through this range here and break that red line, then you trigger that quarterly setup, and it's outside inside and down, and that will be very, very a very, very strong pattern to watch for on the quarterly chart, especially if it continues, doesn't pop back into the range. Okay, now to the daily chart. So again, things are really compressing. So it was a very, very tight week. You know, although we had some volatility this past week, people will say, wow, it's been a volatile week. Not really, right? Because if you look at it, we already saw what the weekly chart looks like. People only see the individual days, but they don't realize we were up only 1.65% on the VIX for the week, right? We did pop down at one point. We came back in the range, and while the days themselves, there was some volatility, right? We had this day here where VIX was up 6.5, then it was down 3.6, then it was up 6. We didn't really go anywhere because the weekly open basically, they basically transacted right around there for most of the week. In fact, the last 2 days of trading were 2 inside days. So while that day was down 3.6% and that was up 6%, those are both double insides. So now you really want to be seeing, how does that double inside pattern break? Does it break to the upside, downside? Because that will trigger a number of things, right? So there's your blue line there, indicates your daily inside bar. Okay, and I'm going to delete that green line here now because that was a gap that got filled, but there is an unfilled gap right here to the downside. So there's our unfilled gap. We have another unfilled gap up here to the upside. So those are the ones that are most. Did this gap get filled? Close to 34.45, low 30. Nope, did not get filled. So I'm going to grab one more. I'm going to grab one more of these guys here. And we have another unfilled gap right there. So it gets very, very close. So you see now, we have some unfilled gaps in terms of they're colored in green. We have the purple lines indicating our weekly levels. Now on the blues right there, on Monday, we want to be seeing, how does it break this range? To the upside, and that will trigger the weekly signal, right? To the upside, that'll be the inside bar reversal. That's it's very, very tight stuff. So this will be very, very apparent very quickly on Monday, how it's going to break. So, and on on Monday, if it breaks to the downside, you're going after this pivot there, and that will trigger that continuation of that weekly inside bar down move. Okay, so very, very clear trading there. That's what I'm waiting to see on Monday. On the 2-day chart here, it's tight, right? Because remember, we have the double inside bar on the daily chart. That means you have an inside bar on the 2-day chart, right? Logically. So this thing is in the process of doing an inside bar reversal. Actually, I think it did it already, yeah. So an inside bar down, all right, on Monday, and then it pops up, all right, it does an inside bar reversal, meaning it pops below this bar that went down and took out that pivot high. That's exactly what it needed to do. It did it, and then it basically just consolidated for the rest of those 2 days. Now waiting to see, how does that inside bar break on the VIX. So now let's go faster. SPY. Again, big thing is, let's watch and see how these quarterly levels, these weekly levels, these monthly levels, these weekly levels, how they break. And then we also want to be watching in terms of what the side of the open price is trading. So the SPY, most of the indices look like this: outside, inside on the SPY. Waiting to see now how it breaks outside of that range. Okay, you see that brown information, it's holding. We're trading inside of it now. So now if it breaks to the downside, you can expect this to come back down. Breaks to the upside, again, if it breaks to the upside, it has to come all the way back up here, and then you'll likely get to all-time highs at that point. Okay, so there's your SPY on the monthly chart. On the quarterly chart. On the monthly chart, you have a bit of a red flag here. So this brown information, it has been holding. Okay, and here now inside bar up in a continuation move here. This now is looking like a shooting star. So this range now becomes important, because if we break below this past month's lows, then we have the chance of this thing coming back out through the other side again, coming back through this range, and going and testing the other side of that brown information. That's a possibility there. Okay, so what would cause the monthly level to break? Right now, this past week, it was an inside week. It was quite tight on the SPY. I'm just going to try to fix something here. Okay, so it's pretty tight on the SPY. So we have outside bar and down. They bought it back this week, inside week. So it consolidated most of the week. So we want to see how that range breaks this coming week on the SPY. Outside bar down, inside bar, how's that break? On the daily chart, it was just basically giving up the gains. So slowly, we had those that really big rally. It took a bit of a break here. That was a week prior, popped back up. Now this week it was inside bar, so it was inside the prior week's range. So most of the week though, it did sell off, went inside bar up. This move here on Tuesday did just enough to take out that pivot high, I believe. The high here was 314.38. The high there was 314.50. See that? That's the way price works. So it takes just enough to take out that pivot high, because that's an outside bar. So we have an outside bar there that gets taken out. Again, I always say never put your stops above or below outside bars because they will come get you. That's an example of it right there. And then it comes back to the range, inside bar up, reversal, right? Gaps down, traps anyone who got long that day, think it was very, very bullish, and it comes back to the range again. And now we test the 50-day moving average. So there's your 50-day, that purple line, and I'm expecting at this point to have a small bounce on the 50 because this is the first time we've tested that 50-day for a while. The last time we touched that 50 was way back here in May. So it's been a good a month and a half since we tested that 50-day. So I expect on Monday to have at least some dip buyers stepping up here and testing that level and having a bit of a bump up here, because it'd be very very, very uncommon for people just to not buy that test. Now this could eventually ultimately fail and it could rip right through. But if you do not see this thing bounce on the 50-day, then that's significant. You want to be you want to pay careful attention to that, because most people, there are a lot of traders out there who are watching this 50-day. Most people will be watching that, and then if the crowd does not follow through with that dip buying activity, then you want to know that, because that means there's more sellers than buyers. So there's your SPY chart. Let's see what they do now with that chart, because on the 2-day chart it's pretty clear. It's been slowly going down, taking out the prior week's took out most of the week's range, the prior week's range there, but not enough to take out the prior week's low. That's why I kept it inside week on the 2-day chart. Okay, Qs. Let's fast forward a bit now. Q is a little bit different than the rest of the indices because it didn't go outside inside. It didn't stay outside inside on the quarter. It went outside bar and up. That's Momo up now on the quarterly chart, right? So this quarter, for the bears to really, really take over, they actually have to break below this pivot low here, way down at 180.86. So if the bears really want to step up and really put the scare in people once again, like that, like in Q1, you actually have to take out a prior quarter's low. Right, so that's why Q1 was so scary for a lot of people, because it took out the prior quarter's low. This coming quarter in Q3, you got to take out Q2's low to really put the fear of God in people again. You got to take out that low, and that will get people to panic once again. That's a lot though, because this quarter is quite historic. We were up 26%. You got to go back a long time before you can find a similar quarter where you're up 26%. Again, that was a log chart. Let me just I turned off the log there. Look at that. Look at the size of that bar. In Q2, you gotta go. It's pretty hard to find a bigger quarter than that, so it would take a lot for the bears to come back through that and take out that low. Okay, so there's your quarterly chart. The month ends like this, pretty strong close. So yes, it wasn't a full green bar, but still you can see after it did the outside bar down Momo thing, then it got extinguished there. They pushed it back up, creating those all-time highs as we expect. Did not close at the highs here, but that's a pretty strong close for the Qs, still up close to 3%. Now, for them to turn this chart around, that is the sellers, they got to take out this month's lows. So this month here, I'm going to draw that low there now in orange. If they can break below this month's lows, that extinguishes the not Momo, but that extinguishes that price action to the upside and creates the monthly reversal to the downside. Okay, so there's your monthly chart, and the weekly chart looks a little bit red. It was on an inside week on the Qs. It had a strong beginning of the week, but then kind of faded. It went outside bar down, up, and did enough to take out that pivot high, right? That's why you don't put your stops above or below outside bars. Took that one out, and then came back on the range again. Once again, let's see what they do with this week's range. Okay, so on the daily chart here, I'm just going to clean things up a little bit as we do a bit of housekeeping. Some of these gaps got filled, and now we want to redraw some of these guys because those all-time highs were taken out. And we have some gaps here that need to be filled. Yeah, there's one right there, I believe. Close of 246.03. High, yeah. So there we have an unfilled gap right there, 246.03. So that guy, just a little bit of an unfilled gap right there. So I would not be surprised to see that gap ticking out at some point. Okay. So let's watch and see now how the Qs respond, because here, right, just how the SPY hit the 50-day moving average on Friday, the Qs hit the 20. So that green line is your 20, that's your 50, and there's your 8 on the Qs. And it's it's been a while. It's been since June 15th, so close to 2 weeks since we touched that 20-day. And the last time we touched that 20-day, we had a pretty good reaction, right? So there's that 20-day touch. It popped up. Here's your 20-day there, right? It popped up, you know, and the last time touched it was way back. Well, before that, we actually had it broke above, retouched right there on April. So again, just like the SPYs, expecting some dip buyers here. I'd be very surprised if the dip buyers don't step up at some point and defend that level. I'll try to use that as an opportunity for a springboard to test things back to the upside again. So for now, that's something I'm watching, is that 20-day test. That means you're going to see a pop here, possibly pop here on Monday. Maybe look at the hourly chart to see if this level holds or not. And as soon as you see a reversal on the hourly chart, that means you see the dip buyer stepping up on the intraday. Now let's go faster on the down now. On the higher time frame, the 3-month looks like that. Outside, oh, that's not a 30-minute. Outside, inside. Okay, so there's your outside, inside on the Dow. How does that range break? Same thing as the rest of them. We'll go faster. Won't draw it on the levels. I'll do it later. Outside, up, up. This looks like a shooting star though in the Dow, right? So this is what you need to watch out for. You got a shooting star right there, and so now if the bears can come in and take out that month's lows, then you have the potential for this to come back through the range again now. So that level there is very important. Possible shooting star on the Dow now to be confirmed this coming month. Weekly chart, inside week, just like the SPY. Outside bar down, inside bar. If this thing breaks below this past week's lows, right there, then it's a continuation of the Momo. Outside bar, inside bar, down, down, down. And that will trigger that break below of the monthly low, right? So that's your monthly low right there. If we break below this past week's low, we're going to break below the monthly lows. And that will be basically the shooting star confirmation, right? And that will definitely trigger a lot of traders. They will see the monthly chart, they'll see that shooting star, and they're going to want to take things off, or they're going to go short. Okay, so there's your Dow, and like the SPY, it did the 50 EMEA test. So tested that on Thursday. There's your purple line. On Friday, actually busted through. Okay, so it broke through there, actually closed below the 50. Let's see if the dip buyers step up here in the Dow, as they suspect they will. But we'll see what happens. Okay. Let's go Russell now. So Russell has been the weakest out of the bunch, as it has been for the past several years. On the quarterly chart, we got the outside inside. Okay, so like the other indices, SPY, Dow, outside inside. Let's see how that breaks that range. On the monthly chart, okay, sort of the same thing, shooting star in this guy. Okay, so now how does this thing break that range? Same scenario as the Dow. If you got that shooting star, you want to wait and see, can this low get taken out here? Okay, so on the weekly chart, you get the exact same pattern. You see, that's why I don't have to repeat so much, because most of the charts look the same. Outside bar down, inside bar. Once again, how do we break this range? Because whichever way it breaks, it's going to trigger the higher time frames, and that's when you really want to be paying attention here. So by triggering higher time frames, you're going to get more sellers or buyers involved. Okay, that's the Dow. So that's the Russell. So look at Russell. So tight here on Friday, you even want inside day. Okay, so when inside day on the Russell, that's gonna, whichever way this thing breaks on Monday, it's probably gonna trigger the weekly level and possibly the monthly level. That's how tight it is. So it'll be a very interesting Monday to watch, to see how price reacts, and on what side of the open we start seeing price transact. Let's go TSX now. TSX. Okay, so TSX, kind of a weak close for the month, but on the bigger pattern, the outside, the 3-month, you got the outside inside, just like the SPY, Dow, and the Russell. So outside inside on the TSX. How does it break that range? On the month, you got the shooting star, like the last couple of indices. Got the shooting star there. How does that resolve itself? On the weekly, you got a very tight scenario here where it goes outside bar, down, inside bar, just like the rest of the indices, right? So, man, it's very, very amusing to see just how correlated markets are, right? So, Canada, the US, the charts look nearly identical, just the ranges are a little bit tighter in Canada on the Canadian side. So, yeah, pretty much identical there. So, want to be seeing again on Friday on the Canadian side, you actually went inside bar down. So, it's starting to break down already, but if all of a sudden on Monday you break above that high, then that was just a fake out to the downside. Right? So there's your TSX. On the TSX here, you already got an outside bar, inside bar setting up. So possible range expansion, more volatility about to happen this coming Monday. Okay, emerging markets. How's that been doing? surprisingly pretty well. Look, it had a pretty strong close for the month of June, up 5.86%. Not a shooting star there, right? So the emerging markets looking slightly different than your North American indices. First, on the quarterly chart, we got the same outside inside. Okay, so that's the same outside inside, but the monthly chart looks stronger. The monthly chart is not that shooting star, but we do want to see, on what side of outside of the ranges price trades this coming month. Okay, but EM, you have this here, very tight stuff, right? So basically everything for the month of June traded for the most part inside of the first week's bar, right? So yes, that broke above that range slightly, but came back in, then spent most of the month inside of this first week's range. So there's your EM trade. Now again, we're watching to see how does it break, because on Monday you got the inside bar down on the daily, like I said in the TSX. That looks a little bit bearish, maybe, but you get the 200-day right there. There's your 200-day right there, and there's your 20-day right there. So I definitely expect some folks to be defending that. And if you break above this high right there, Friday's high, then that's bullish once again, because it traps the guys who went short. Okay, so watching for that potential scenario. Let's go TLT. TLT fought back, and it's clawed its way back, but on the bigger time frame chart, it is also an inside quarter. So pretty tight stuff, especially considering we had a huge move on bonds in Q1. Look at that, close to 22% move on bonds in Q1. You really got to go back a ways to try to find a similar bar, right? Like you have to go way back here. I was 2011, and there was the crash of 2008. I was up 25%. All right, that's close to 26%. So there's your outside inside now on the quarter. And look at that, that thing found support right on our broadening formation resistance line, our support line. On the monthly chart, looks like this. We've been talking about, we've been watching it every single week now, but it had gone inside bar down, and then it came in at one point all the way down to here, and they bought that level, okay, and that turned into a hammer. So it closes the month out pretty strong, a green hammer now. Now, can you break above this past month's high? Because if you do, that's going to, they keep going up, we're going after that pivot right there. Weekly chart, it started already, inside week and up, okay, but if all of a sudden they take it back down again, they go inside week, up and back down, that's a reversal, trapping anyone who got long TLT. They break below this past week's lows, all right, and then they're going to come after that range there. Okay, here's your TLT. We're watching now to see which side of this thing it resolves. Does it continue higher, this inside week up continuation, or inside week up and down? All right, inside week up and then back down. That's inside bar reversal to the short side, and then we expect that pivot to go after, and then perhaps to that pivot. How about gold? So we saw bonds pop, so did gold pop as well? Let's look at the gold micro futures. See what happened there. Remember last week I talked about the fact that we finally broke out of that consolidation pattern we saw on gold. But on the bigger time frame chart here, look at the quarter on gold. So gold, even though it's been doing a lot of nothing for most of June, look at the way it closed. Look at that. Look at the quarterly close, up 11.5%. You really can't complain much about that. You just look at that chart right there, especially where it's come from. So that was a pretty good quarter, pretty decent, even though it was a pretty lackluster quarter for the most part. There wasn't a lot of fireworks. So that's up 11.5%, and that's the biggest quarter it's had since, let's go back in time here. Yeah, you really have to go back to here, to Jan, the Q1 of 2016. That was up close to 16.5%. This is up 11.5%, so it's a pretty good run for gold in Q2 of 2020. Monthly chart, here we go. Outside bar up. Now, inside bar, outside bar. If it goes up, that's Momo up now. You break above that pivot level here. That's this pivot here, 1796. You're going Momo up, and you're gonna, you're going higher. Okay, so that's going to go higher at that point. Now here, we talked about the breakout. There's outside inside. We were watching for that. How it's going to resolve this pattern. The outside inside. We love that pattern. And it broke to the upside. Did not take off, though. It fools people, right? Because when nothing happens, the week of the breakout, people lose interest. We talked about it last week. But the folks who are patient and focused, then it is on their radar. Just because it doesn't break out the same week, it's oftentimes just a head fake, so that those who chase stocks, they lose interest. So here it finally pops up. It was only up, close to 1.5%, around 1.5%, but certainly it broke to close to quarterly highs. So that here is 17.887. Yeah, so it did break up to the quarterly highs this past week. Okay, so there's your MGC chart. Now I'm watching this on Monday. Look at that, how it closed it on Monday, on Friday, excuse me. We got the outside bar. All right, so it took out both sides of the range. And now, waiting to see, I'm going to clone this line here. You want to see what side of price this thing trades. Okay, so what side of this range does it trade? It could go outside bar up, outside bar down. That would be our Momo up and down conditions, or does it go outside inside to start the month? All right, let's look at BTC last. Now BTC has been a whole lot of nothing, slowly giving up the gains that it got in Q1. Let's bring up BTC on Bitfinex, and I've been pretty light on the crypto trading front because the ranges have been very tight. But the bias has been somewhat downwards. The only thing is that it's kind of been a green quarter, so it's kind of hard to change that quarter. And now we only have a few days left. Let's see where it takes us. But on the quarterly chart, it looks like this. Just like the indices, just like SPY, just like the Dow, just like the Russell, just like the TSX, just like the emerging markets. Can you see there's a bit of correlation involved? It's outside inside. So we really want to see here now, how does this outside inside break on BTC? Because that, it's been a long quarter in the making. We got the inside bar there now. Which way does that thing break out? Outside bar, inside bar. Really want to see how that thing breaks. On the monthly chart, very tight month. Okay, so you had a situation where it did go up and break above the prior month's high, but it spent most of the month inside the prior month's range. That means it's tight stuff. So you got that range now. You want to see, does it break below here? The month's not finished yet, so I'm not going to draw these lines out yet. But all likely, with only a few days left in the month, we're probably going to remain a red month, all right? Or it's going to be a month where you're going to be inside the prior month's range. With only a few days left, I don't think it's going to take out May's lows. Anything could happen in crypto sometimes, but I don't think so, just based on how tight it's been. But now it's really wait and see now, because I really want to see how price transacts based on those new opening levels. Okay, so there's your monthly chart. The weekly chart, it's an outside bar. Okay, so this now sets up for some momentum because, and again, the week hasn't closed yet. I'll just draw it in for now as a placeholder. But on Monday, which way we break out of here, right? Momo down, Momo up, or Momo or outside bar, inside bar. Waiting for that and see how that plays out. Okay, so there's that on the BTC chart. On the daily chart, I think it did go inside bar down. Yeah, it went inside bar down. I've been watching that. For last week, you remember when that said it was outside inside, and it resolved to the downside. So outside, actually, no, that was the prior week. Sorry, this was a prior week, but during the week, it went outside inside and went and resolved to the downside. So certainly, there is some tradable action there. That's a pretty straightforward signal, outside, inside, and down. However, for me, I'm not taking it because I know it's very tight trading. Like this is, you can just see, that's inside of this range here, and I'm looking for something that's going to move a little more than what's setting up in this little box here. Okay, so there is your BTC chart. So let's talk about just a few charts to watch for this coming week, and then we'll get to our stars and dogs, and then we'll do our quarterly review of some of the sectors and Fang names. So first, for this coming week, let's look at these charts here. I'm curious about these names. So first off, let's bring up Micron, because I think it's very indicative of a lot of semi names. So Micron have been doing, have been flying pretty high. Did go outside bar down, inside, and it broke to the upside. So I looked very bullish for a time for Micron, but now it's looking a little bit like a shooting star, right? So here the issue is if you break below that low there, again, this is a monthly level, so I'm going to draw it in red. If you break below this red line, that's going to trigger an inside bar reversal to the downside. Then they'll go after May's lows. Okay, so that's the red flag here for Micron. Although you're reporting on Monday, right? So let's see how Micron reports. If you break below that low though on Monday, that's trouble because you're going to go after that pivot and then that pivot. Okay, so that's Micron on the monthly chart. On the weekly chart, it's been very tight on Micron, so I want to see how it resolves because we've got earnings coming up, so it's been kind of tight stuff. So people are in that wait and see mode. Because a lot of semis, they kind of they've sort of ground some of the, they were flying high, but now they're kind of slowed down a bit. AMAT is another name here now that should be interesting to see how that thing resolves. AMATs. So here, apply materials, inside, outside, inside on this weekly chart. How does it break that pattern, right? AAOI, another semi name. Outside, outside, inside. So, people are getting chopped up in here. Then you got a whole week of consolidation. Now this thing can fly. You want to see which way this thing breaks, because then if it starts to move, these folks who got chopped up in here, they're gonna have to jump on board and chase if they want to get back in. Caesars, this thing, outside, inside. The fears of a second a wave here are definitely causing people to be a little reticent about some of these names. So outside, inside on Caesars now had a really good run, right? Look at this. It was a $3 stock back here in March, 322, came up to 12, close to 13 bucks here. So outside, inside now, which way does that one break? And Macy's, right? We got Macy's reporting on was it Thursday, or was it Wednesday? Excuse me. And Macy's here, so watching for this one here. Shooting star on Macy's right there, right? Look at the shooting star right there. Break below that low. Wow, it's going to go back in the lows again, and that's not good for retail. So watching for Macy's, it's already started the move inside bar down. Let's watch more for that name. Now, some of the stars. Let's talk about some of the stars this past week. A lot of strong stuff in the tech sector. So man, my top trending names for this past week in my watch list, I have a watch list of about 325 names. Some of the ones that rank highest, Yeti. So here, look at the move on Yeti. From those lows, it was a $15 stock at one point, up to 40, close to 45. So nearly up 300% there on Yeti, still trending strong. Spotify, wow, that thing has been on fire. Spotify. It's getting close to parabolic here now, where you have to watch out if you're buying now. You're a little bit late to the game on Spotify, but this thing has been, it's taken off. Adobe, one of the stronger trending names. Look how strong that trend has been on Adobe, still going higher. But watch out, this is getting a little choppy here now. Outside bar to end of Friday, so watch out for that. Docu ends the week very, very strong. I myself was in this name, out now, but out now because I don't want to carry too much stuff into the new quarter. But Docu, look at that move, going into all-time highs on the Friday. And Match.com, people getting back to dating, hopefully. That thing went to, I believe, all-time highs this past, on Friday. So there's your nice trending move here on Match.com. Now, some of the dogs, look, Pfizer, not doing so well. All right, this thing here, turning into a dog. So the past 2 weeks, not been kind to Pfizer, trending strongly to the downside. GoDaddy, I don't know the news coming out of GoDaddy, but it's not been good, because that's some ugly stuff there. So it had to be a nice smooth trend. And the problem is that when the trend is no longer your friend, it comes back in fast. And everyone who got involved this move to the upside lost all their money to the downside on one single day. Okay, AMC, these are theaters, right? So AMC, the theater company, ouch. Easy come, easy go. And they gave back a lot of those gains for the past month. DraftKings, so I'm not sure the news coming out of that one either, but the technicals don't look good there. Now, look at that. That's Momo down. Outside bar ticks everyone out here. Then Momo down, 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 down. Okay, so now if you're short DraftKings, stay short until one of these bars highs get taken out, because that's Momo to the downside on DraftKings. And one more, SVIX retailer, had to be a nice kind of consolidation pattern here now, but you got to watch out, because this is a consolidation pattern now, right? So this had been trending, now it's just been basically consolidating. There's basically no trend here anymore. It's just consolidating. It's not a trending stock. So now, how does this thing break outside that? Look how tight that monthly chart is. Am I on them? Okay, here we go. Look at that. So ends the month like that. Look how tight that is. Down minus 0.48%. So very, very tight range there on SVIX. You want to see how that range breaks, because you break below that low right there. There's your shooting star confirmation to the downside. SVIX. Okay, now let's talk about our Fang names, and then we'll go to the through the sectors. So Fang names. Let's start with the with Facebook. Facebook. Here at Facebook, here's what I'm looking at. Okay, so Momo up on Facebook on the quarterly chart. Outside bar up. On the monthly chart, shooting star. Okay, so there's your shooting star on Facebook, like a lot of the other names you've been watching. Watch out, Facebook. And then on the weekly scenario here, it's getting very, very close now to triggering that shooting star to the downside. All right, so there is your monthly low. Okay, and it already went outside bar down. So if it goes inside, outside bar, and down, if it keeps going, that's Momo down. Okay, so it's it breaks below this low and stays below, you got Momo down. You got to watch out for that if you're if you're long, because this can come back to the range again. Facebook a bit of weakness there. Apple, this thing has been gangbusters and it keeps getting upgrades. On the quarterly chart, you got a Momo up situation. Momo up. In order to extinguish this Momo up, you got to take out that low. That's what it would take, quite a bit. Okay. So there on the monthly chart, you got a pretty strong close for Apple, inside bar up. And the weekly chart, you got a bit of a shooting star. So that's the only red flag here for Apple right now, is you got a bit of a shooting star for Apple to start Q3. Okay. Amazon, man, this thing has been on a roll as well. In terms of a trend, it's been on a heck of a trend. Amazon, one of my higher trending stocks in my watch list. So on the quarterly chart, very strong. Momo up. It would take a lot to take this low out. Okay, so I just want to look at the yearly chart for a second. Yeah, look at the yearly chart. You know why people are buying Amazon all year? Well, one reason is this: inside bar up. So last year was very tight, right? In 2019, it was inside year. Now it's broke above that high. It's inside bar up on the year for Amazon. Okay, so now on Amazon, monthly chart, it's Momo up as well. So look at that. Sorry, that's quarterly. Monthly, I think it's if I'm not mistaken. Okay, it's not a Momo up condition, but it did go Momo down, and then they reclaimed it right there when they extinguished it and took out that high, and now it's it's getting higher, going to blue. It's basically blue skies. So wherever the crowd wants to take it at this point, that's how high Amazon's going to go. So Amazon in good shape. On the week though, it's got to watch out for this. There could be some short-term weakness here. If the shorts can break below this past week's low, sorry, I'm going to delete that line. Use the purple line here. That'll trigger the inside week reversal. So inside week up and back down, that'd be inside bar reversal short to the downside. Watch out for that to start the quarter for Amazon. But again, the higher time frames are pointing up, they're screaming up. But the weekly time frame, maybe lower time frames, even like the daily, you might see some weakness on Amazon. But again, those will probably be buying opportunities just on the strength of on those higher time frame charts. Let's go Netflix. Netflix had reclaimed its all-time highs, but did get a bit weaker to close the quarter. So on the quarterly chart, inside bar up. There's, that's continuation there. Curious to see what the monthly chart, yearly chart. Yeah, look at that. Inside year up. Okay, that's that's why Netflix is just like Amazon. Inside year up. Look at that inside year. Remember 2017 had a big year, had a 55% year. It's coming from this inside bar up. It was inside bar in 2019 and up again, up 37% for Netflix this past year. So on the monthly chart, you look like this. Pretty strong move. Oops, it's Momo up, right? So Momo up on Netflix. Momo up. You need to see that low get taken out there before that Momo gets extinguished on Netflix. Okay, so watching for that. Now let's talk about Google. Our final Fang name. Google, kind of like Facebook, a little weaker. Not a shooting star, but you did have a red month, which is unusual since the rest of the Fang names other than Facebook were doing pretty well. Inside up, but came back in the range again. So a red month. Again, we need to see here, do we get a reversal on the monthly chart right there? On the quarterly chart, Google is an outside inside. Okay, so there's your outside inside on Google. Sorry, I'm going to redraw that range here. The red signifies quarterly, excuse me. How do we break that range? Okay, on Google. And on the weekly chart, a bit of weakness here, right? So here now, we know there's going to be some more fireworks at some point because it goes outside, inside, and outside bar again. Now, people got chopped up here, and if they go another inside week, that's going to set up some more volatility. So watching Google quite carefully here now because of this, sequence. Outside, inside, outside again. Expect more either a consolidation week if you trade inside the range, or if it breaks inside that range, you're going to get a go situation. Okay, so Google. I'll give one final bonus name. Let's go Microsoft because it's so tightly intertwined with tech. Microsoft. Now, this thing has hit all-time highs. It came off a bit, but for the most part, it has been gangbusters to the upside. Look at that move. Momo up on Microsoft. Okay, outside bar up on Microsoft. Yearly chart, what's that look like? Let's see. I haven't looked at the year chart. Oh, yeah, man, look at that move. Not an inside up year, but you can't really complain about that move. Yeah, hit 200 has come back since then, but not a bad looking chart on the yearly chart. So, coronavirus, yeah, it doesn't really bother names like Microsoft. On the monthly chart, you have a good strong close for the month of June, but on the lower time frame, specifically the weekly chart, here you have a Momo up condition, but you got to watch out for this momentum getting getting extinguished. Again, this can pull back in, right, back into here, but in the longer time frames, you know that it's a buy situation. So it's one of the situations now where you really want to time your trades, because yes, this can certainly come back in here now and come in 5%, but in the big picture, you know, you want to be putting these names on your buy list to buy on steep pullbacks, because there will be these are great names. So there it is on. Yeah, so you kind of got a shooting star as well there on Microsoft, so something to watch out for. Again, you might get some weakness on these lower time frame charts, but when you look at those higher time frame charts like the quarterly, yearly, you can't bet against these guys, right? You can maybe stay short for maybe a month if you're lucky, but eventually that trend's going to re-exert itself, and if you don't get long, you're going to get run over. Okay, so there's your review of the Fang names. Let's wrap things up now very quickly by going over our sectors. So I'm going to pull up the 3-month chart, and let's pull up the sectors and go through them one at a time. Let's begin with basic materials. Okay, outside, inside. On the basic materials, I'm going to delete this line here. Actually, let's keep that one in there. Outside, inside on XLB. Let's see how that thing breaks. A little choppy, right? So this did not get to prior highs, prior all-time highs. Very quickly on 12-month chart. Yeah, look at the range on an XLB this year, right? It did go outside bar XLB, but come back in again. Currently going outside, inside, outside. Interesting to see what happens. What will happen next year. Okay, XLB, that's that. Energy names. Inside bar, down, inside bar. So this did break below. This thing did break below this prior pivot low. So now this past quarter was an inside bar. Does it keep going? Or if you break back above this high there, right? So Q2's highs, it's going to be an inside bar reversal back to the upside. We're going to go gun back for that area there. Okay, so there's your XLB. Financials getting a bit was a bit weak at the end of the week here because of the news that the government's not going to let banks declare any more dividends until probably October timeframe, I think it was, or do any more share buybacks. So that hurts folks who love banks to do share buybacks. But we have an outside inside to end the quarter. So how does that get resolved? Again, trading at the lower end of that range. But again, if you break back above here, you're going back to these all-time highs. Industrials, how's that doing? Okay, industrials, outside, inside. Firmly outside, inside, right? It means you're opening right inside the prior quarter's range. So how are you going to break outside of this inside bar this coming quarter? That's always the question. How do you get outside of the prior months or prior quarters or prior weeks or prior days range? Same thing applies here on the quarterly chart here. Firmly outside, inside on the XLI. Tech. Obviously it had all-time highs. Momo up. We talked about Qs already. It's Momo up there. Staples, outside, inside. See how these charts are very, very similar, right? The issue I see moving forward is, I already asked the question, how are you going to get outside this range if you open right in the middle? Because you need to drive pretty far away from where you open to break the ranges. And it's possible that things may just get super choppy and stay nowhere, or kind of stay here for most of the quarter. Right, and then set up for an interesting Q4. So that's a scenario that I'm definitely watching out for. Is maybe we get a quarter of simply consolidation, right? For this thing to basically work off the huge ranges that we had in Q1 and Q2. Could just be another inside quarter before we get a big move to break outside of these ranges. And finally, actually a few more sectors. Utilities, Utes, outside, inside again. How could it not be an inside quarter after that huge Q1, right? So there you get outside, inside. How do you break out of that? Healthcare, close to the highs, but look, outside, inside. This will be very nice when it pops, when it breaks outside its range. But how do you do that being right there? And finally, discretionary, outside and up. So it did create a higher high there. So the ball is in the buyer's court because we take the sellers all the way down to here before it creates a real panic. And people have to, it creates a reversal on the quarterly chart. The monthly chart on discretionary. Yeah, you did create a new high there, right? So it did just enough. That here did just enough to take out that pivot high. That's usually the pattern that how it plays out is keep that one more down situation, it comes back up, and then it goes after the outside bar high. It did that. It's come back in now. You got a shooting star to start. July. Again, you could come in, right? It could certainly sell off and come back into here, but then you have to take a step back, as we always do, and say, but how do you change this bar, right? Because you're going to open somewhere in here. Even if you go into here, it's still going to be inside quarter. So as you know, as many as even though there are going to be some good trading opportunities, you can never lose the forest from the trees, and not recognize that you're still trading in this larger pattern. Okay, because on a 12-month chart, like look at the size of this bar. So next year, right? So this is the yearly chart. You're probably going to be, unless it breaks above this bar's high, you're probably going to be inside year next year. Okay, so we don't need to extrapolate that far out yet because it's only we're going to Q3 of this year. But you can already see next year, if you open up somewhere in here, it's going to be very, very difficult to break outside those ranges. So that's the analysis. This is our quarterly analysis. Do a little deeper of a dive into some of the sectors and into some of the usual names that we look at. So I hope you found that useful. As always, if you enjoy the videos, please give it a big thumbs up. That helps us find more eyeballs. If you want to be notified as soon as these videos drop, click on the big subscribe button on YouTube, or come over to the blog site, thetradingedge.org. You can subscribe to our newsletter there, and I send out a weekly newsletter where I send out this video as well as some of my other trading perspectives. As always, I wish you a great trading week. Again, the first week of every quarter is very, very important because that sets the tone for a lot of the for a lot of that quarter. You really want to be watching, I can't stress it enough, how price transacts in relation to those opening levels. The quarterly, the monthly, the weekly, they're all going to be the same this first week, right? So that's going to be very, very important. So that's going to open up on on Monday. We're going to see that tone set, and then on Tuesday is very, very important because the next day you're going to see right away where's price trade in relation to that open, right? So the Tuesday is going to be important because you're going to see does price trade above that opening level or below that opening level, and then it's going to give you a tone for the week. Okay, so as always, have a great trading week. If you have any questions, drop me an email or something in the comment section. I'll be happy to review it and perhaps leave some comments in the next week's video. Take care, stay strong, and we'll see you next week. All the best.